Hey guys, in this video we're going to learn how to find the radius and center of a circle when you're given the general form of the equation. Alright, here it is. Okay guys, so coming into this you're going to want to be comfortable completing the square as well as factoring trinomials. But if you can do those well, then this should be a breeze for you. So this here is what we call the general form of the equation of a circle. And this form isn't particularly useful. It doesn't tell us a whole lot. But the conic form of the equation of a circle does. It tells us the center and it also tells us the radius. And so what this is going to be about is just converting this general form into the conic form so that we can easily see the center and radius. So once we get into this form, the center is going to be given by h comma k, all right? And then the radius is just going to be the square root of whatever you see here. And now it's important to note that this formula is defined using subtraction. And so your x and y coordinates of the center are going to be the opposite of the numbers that you see in here. Okay, and so also, this here is a binomial squared, and this here is a binomial squared. So in order to make a couple of binomials squared out of all of these terms here, we're going to need to get a perfect square trinomial to factor. And the trick that we know to get a perfect square trinomial is completing the square. So the first thing we need to do is set ourselves up to complete the square. And so the first thing I'm going to do here, just to clean this up a little bit, is I'm going to add this constant term to both sides just to get rid of the constant term away from my variables. So if you have a constant term here, you're going to add or subtract it off. So in this case, I'm going to add 47 to both sides. All right. And this is going to leave me with x squared plus y squared minus 14x minus 4y equaling 47. Okay. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reorganize all of my terms so that the x terms are together and then the y terms are together. So I'm just going to reorder these. I'll keep my x terms on the left. Okay, my x squared and my negative 14x I'll put first, and then I'll put my y terms afterwards. All right. And now what this does is it positions me to complete the square for my x terms as well as my y terms. So we're going to end up doing this twice. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore my y terms here, and I'm just going to complete the square for my x terms. So if you remember how we do that is we cut this value in half. We call that the b value, and we square that value once we cut it in half. So negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7, and then we're going to square the negative 7 to give us a positive 49. So I'm going to add 49, but since I just did that out of nowhere, I also have to add 49 to the other side. Okay, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. And so now I'm going to ignore my x terms, and I'm going to complete the square for my y term. So again, I'm going to cut this value in half, and that would be negative 2. I square the negative 2, I get positive 4. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. All right. So now what I have is a perfect square trinomial in terms of x. And then I also have a perfect square trinomial in terms of y. And the 47 plus the 49 plus 4 is going to give me 100. Okay. And now I can factor these perfect square trinomials. So this trinomial here is going to factor into x minus 7, the quantity squared. and then I will add to that this trinomial factored, which is going to be y minus 2, the quantity squared, and that equals 100. And now, as you can see, we have matched our conic form equation here. And so I can now see that the center, and again, the coordinates of the center are gonna be the opposite of the numbers that I see in here, because again, the formula is defined using subtraction. So my x coordinate of the center is gonna be positive 7, and the y coordinate of my center is gonna be positive 2. And now, keep in mind, this is not the radius. This is the radius squared. So if r squared equals 100, well then by taking the square root of both sides, I can see that r is going to be 10. Okay? All right, we'll do one more here. So again, I need to position myself to complete the square here. So the first thing I'll do is I'll subtract the 16 from both sides. All right, and then I will reorder these terms so that my x terms come first. So plus 8x. All right, and now I can complete the square for my x terms. So I'm going to cut the 8 in half to get 4, and square that 4 to get 16. So I add 16 to both sides. Whatever you do to one side, you got to do the other. And then I will complete the square for my y terms. So I will cut the negative 6 in half to get negative 3, square the negative 3 to get positive 9. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. Okay, so I have x squared plus 8x plus 16. That is my first perfect square trinomial. And then I have plus y squared minus 6y plus 9. That is my second perfect square trinomial. And this is going to equal 9. Okay, now I can factor my first trinomial here. That's going to be x plus 4, the quantity squared. And then this trinomial here is going to factor into y minus 3, the quantity squared. And now we're in our conic form equation. And so the x coordinate is going to be the opposite of this value, which is going to be negative 4. And the y coordinate will be the opposite of this value, which is going to be positive 3. And r squared is 9, right? R squared is 9. And so taking the square root of both sides will tell us that r is going to be 3. And so the center of the circle is going to be negative 4, 3 with a radius of 3 units. All right. And with that said, guys, it's been demonstrated.